Hi, I'm Kate McDermott of Art of the Pie, and I am here at the Allrecipes studio today to make some pie, show you some tips and tricks that I know. And I'm here with Lauren Coe of Instagram fame of Loco Kitchen, and she's going to show me how to make one of her amazing pie tops, and I'm just like over the moon. In the process of doing this, I'm going to show Lauren how I make an Art of the Pie dough and one of my favorite fruit pie fillings. Very, very, very easy both. And then you're going to take it away.
Yeah, so as she mentioned, I'm Lauren Coe from the Instagram account Loco Kitchen. I started the account a little over 5 months ago, and the internet has been wonderful to me, and here we are. I cannot even believe that I'm existing in the same room as Queen Kate right now, but super ready to bake some pies together.
Fabulous. How did you start making pies?
Just by accident, really. I had just moved to Seattle, was unemployed, had some extra time on my hands, and saw some photos on the internet of pretty pies and I wonder if I could do that, and here we are.
Were you a baker before then?
I did grow up baking and cooking, but just had never tried making pies before.
Yeah, me too. I started, my first baking experiences were very basic. They were with mud pies in my backyard.
Oh,
and I think, you know, that sort of prepared me for this
yeah.
very odd and unusual career path that has happened. Nothing, I think with pie, you never know how it's going to turn out, but it's always perfect.
Always.
So,
Always delicious.
yeah. So, shall we make pie?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm
Okay.
ready.
So I'm gonna show you how I make an Art of the Pie dough. And first thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna sort of move my equipment over here closer. And I'm gonna put this on the scale for you. And then we'll put that on. Let's turn it around so everybody can see our,
Sure.
yeah.
Can bake along with us.
Yeah, okay. So first thing you want to do is make sure that it's zeroed out. And this scale is so neat because it has a light function right there.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, and we want to make sure that we are in grams and not ounces on here. So there are four things that go into the Art of the Pie dough: flour, salt, fat, and ice water. Okay, so we're going to
Easy
put
enough.
in, yeah.
I think.
Oh, it is. So we've already measured out for you here 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and I think that is the same as 363 grams. Let's see how close we get when we pour all that in.
And I noticed our bowl is really chilly. Do you keep it in the freezer or
I
the fridge?
do. I keep my pie flour right in the freezer.
Okay,
Not
smart.
for bread or cookies or anything, but definitely for pie, because as many things as I can. For me, rule number one in pie making is to keep everything chilled, especially yourself. Okay, so we have that. How close do we get? 364. We'll
grams
take
off,
that.
yeah.
Now we're going to put in 1/2 teaspoon of salt,
Okay. Sprinkle.
and that should be about 3 grams. And we're actually done with this at this point. We can move this aside. And now we're going to put in 8 tablespoons of salted Kerrygold butter.
Oh, salted.
I use both salted and unsalted interchangeably,
Okay.
and it works out fine for me. So this is it's a European style butter, but if you don't have a European style butter, those are usually foil wrapped. Just use butter. Just make the pie. So we're going to put
That's
those
what I
in
use.
and just dump them all in.
All right.
And that 8 tablespoons is the same as 112 grams
Okay.
for gram measurers. I was never a
I
measurer.
usually just let my scale do it for me.
Yeah, you know, and
Am I mixing these? Am I
not
swishing
yet,
it?
not yet. Now we have the same amount of leaf lard. So leaf lard is a rendered fat from a very specific area of the pig. Do you like bacon?
Of course I love
Oh,
bacon.
yeah, it's kind of the gateway drug, isn't it? You
Yeah.
know. So leaf lard. Well, when you cook bacon, you're rendering fat out,
Yeah.
and it cools and it turns white. Leaf lard is basically the same principle. It's just fat that is rendered slowly, but it comes from around the pig's kidney area.
Oh, okay.
And it's been prized by pie makers for many, many, many generations. So we also have 8 tablespoons or 112 grams, and just
Dumping this
dump
in
it
here.
in.
So this is my first time making a pie crust that is not all butter. So
Well, I hope
I'm
this will
very
work.
interested in seeing
So
how this
now
goes.
we can take a knife and, sort of like cut that up a little bit into some big chunks really quickly. Also, if you have very, very chilly chilly flour from the freezer, if you have a melting butter or melting leaf lard, if you toss the frozen flour over the fats, it helps retard their melting.
Okay, good tip. Hope you're all
Okay.
taking notes.
There's always replay,
It's a
right?
free masterclass.
Okay, this looks good.
Okay.
Now, what we're going to do next, and I can take the knife for you if you like.
Every last bit.
Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do, it's very technical.
Okay.
We're going to smush the fat into the flour as quickly as we
Yes,
can.
the scientific term.
That's right.
smush.
So I'll show you what smushing looks like
Okay.
for me.
Okay.
So I'm going to take my hands and I'm going to smush. So, and I notice that the leaf lard is softer than the butter. So I really smush, and I want to go right ahead and smush.
Okay.
I want to have my pieces when they're done looking like cracker crumbs, peas, almonds, and maybe a walnut meat.
Ooh. Variety.
Yeah. And we want to do it as fast as we can.
Oh, going.
Do you know what the temperature is that butter melts at?
I have no idea.
59 degrees.
Oh.
So
Ready.
if you have warm hands, holding ice cubes is one way to help keep those fats chilly.
That's a good tip. I usually just rinse in the sink with cold water
That
if I
works
need to,
too.
if it feels like my hands are getting too warm.
Maybe we could do some of this together
Yeah.
too. Okay,
it
smushing,
along.
smushing. Oh no.
Especially.
It's very satisfying.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is very therapeutic.
Yeah.
Stressed out. This is a good post-work activity.
I'm going to push some of this over there,
Okay.
and you push some of that over
Mix
here.
some
So
of
we're
that.
just at this point, we still need some more to go. If I see pieces that are like this size, and you kind of question, you say, I wonder if that's too big. You've already answered your own question.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Okay.
If it's the size of the full nuts, then
It would be the
it's too
meat.
much. Yeah.
When you can start to smell, do you smell the aroma of the leaf lard
Yeah,
a little
it's very
bit?
nutty,
That
actually.
yes, that means that we're getting close to the melting point.
Okay.
So we hope that we're there or we move faster. Okay.
It's looking pretty good.
I think so too. So we can see that we have cracker crumbs, peas, almonds, and maybe that walnut meat.
Yep.
Okay, wide variety of sizes
Perfect.
and shapes. Okay, so
Okay.
we have flour, salt, fat, and the
Now
iced
we need
water
some
is
water.
next. So I have, our recipes generally take around 6 to 8 tablespoons of water. And this one, I have 10 measured out here. And we will sort of,
Slowly add it
yes,
as we go.
with our high-tech mixing tool,
Ooh.
the fork.
Where did you even get that?
I know, out of the drawer. Isn't that amazing? So I'm going to sprinkle on, and you're going to fluff as you go.
Okay. Fluff.
Fluff, fluff, fluff. And it's moving water around in the bowl rather than mixing. Mixing is what you do with cookie dough.
Okay.
Okay? Now, we can see, even when we see that, we go, obviously that's still dry. So what do we need?
More water.
Here we go. Fluff some more.
Fluffing.
And if you don't have your high-tech mixing tool, you have your hands and you never lose them.
Even better.
Here we go.
Always have a backup plan.
Now, to tell if we are there, then we can take a squeeze. Does it hold together? Or if I wiggle my fingers, does it fall apart? So it needs more water in this particular
Okay.
instance. Here we go, a little more.
Sprinkling.
Okay. Nice fluffing technique.
Thank you. I've been working at it for years.
Now, as I see this, it looks really shaggy now.
Yeah.
And
it's
this,
heavy.
to me, we're going to do, excuse me, a little hand laundry now.
Okay.
So take your hands, like they're kind of like the agitator of the gentle cycle.
Okay.
And move your fingers around like this and do a little hand laundry in there. Yeah. Now it should feel a little moist.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we have one more thing that we'll do so we can get it into a ball. Okay. So I started doing this cool little thing a few years back where I make a loaf, a karate chop, and then I fold over on the top. And then I turn my bowl. Loaf, karate chop, and fold. And we do that 4 or 5 times.
Okay. So
And it'll look kind of shaggy as you
loaf.
do that.
karate chop and fold it over.
And as you do that, you might go sprinkle, sprinkle each time you do
Oh.
that. Now, when I make my loaf, it's one push
Oh.
because each time I touch my dough, I'm warming it up.
Touching this
Okay.
much. So one loaf motion, one karate chop.
And then fold it over. Yeah.
Cool.
You're fine. Do one more. Let me
Okay.
show you here. Loaf, karate chop, and fold. Now we'll take it and squeeze it into a big ball as if there's a magnet in the center there. And it forms into a nice big ball.
So what happens if it's a nice summer day and the sun is shining, but your kitchen's really warm and you're trying to get this dough together and you can feel that all the fats are melting? What should you do?
One
Push
of the
through?
things, well, yes, you should, but there's some tricks that you can help along with that. Double bowl it with ice underneath in the second
Okay.
bowl. That really helps a lot. Okay, let's see what we've got. Let's see if we can pick that up. This is going to be a nice flaky dough. We can then again take this and sprinkle on the outside here.
Okay.
And it's okay to have some of this in here. We'll just slam that on there like that.
Perfect.
Okay. Now let's take our knife again and cut it in half and see what we have on the inside.
Right. Cross section.
Uh-huh.
Oops.
A very flaky one. Oh,
Look at all
well,
that butter.
there's a lot of butter in there and there's some layers along with that.
Perfect.
Okay, so now we'll take some plastic wrap. And we're going to wrap our dough discs in here. And
Do you
what
pat
I
yours down or
I
just leave
don't.
them?
So I actually put it down there with a certain amount of authority
Cool.
because
You
I want
tell
my
it.
dough to know I'm in charge.
Okay.
Okay, and then I'll wrap from the corners tightly.
I am the boss here, so we are wrapping tightly.
And I
And I
realized that the reason that I say that is just an easy way to say let's not have any air in there when you wrap it.
And why is that?
The oxidation, if it stays in the fridge overnight or whatever, it can change the color of your dough. It's not going to
Okay.
affect your dough at all. But I kind of like my dough looking, you know, this nice color.
Fresh and
Okay.
normal.
The other thing, now we have a chubby disc, and we can take this and roll it like a little truck tire. And these go into the fridge
Great.
to chill. So
Pop
they'll
those
chill
right
for
in.
about half an hour. Would be 20 minutes would be the minimum.
Okay.
Half an hour,
What's
hour.
the longest? Do you ever freeze your dough?
I do after it's chilled,
Okay.
because if you put it in before into the freezer before it's chilled, it'll still have activated gluten in there.
Oh, good
So I like to
know.
have the gluten strands relax in the fridge for a while, and then
Perfect.
okay. So now we
some
will
of
go
this
on to
dough.
making
Hi, we have a
filling.
question from the Facebook audience.
a question.
Yes, so where can you buy leaf lard?
Leaf lard is available at some places online. I do have, if it's okay to say, on my website, artofthepie.com, I do have a blog entry. If you type in leaf lard, you'll find some vendors that are there that you can have it actually mail ordered right to your home. And I see now more and more, I do see it at some of the stores.
Okay. That's a good question. I
Okay.
have no idea. Had no idea. All right. Filling?
Yes. So now we'll take this bowl and when I make, we're making a fruit pie today, and we will take, we already have measured out in our pie pan the amount of fruit that we're going to use.
Okay.
And I measure fruit to the pie pan rather than to the recipe.
Okay. That's a good
So
idea.
if I have an 8-inch pie pan or a 10-inch pie pan, I can still be successful with my recipe and not feel like, well, I don't have the 9-inch today, so I can't make that recipe.
Yeah.
So this way, I'm going to measure until it's up to the rim, maybe a little lower in parts, but not mounded up.
Okay.
Okay, so this will go into our little bowl here. We'll just dump that in. And we have a selection of fresh raspberries, blueberries, and blackberries. Okay, so just like there are 4 things that go into dough, there are 4 things that go into this filling.
Oh, easy enough.
Oh, yeah. So fruit, sweetener. So we have in here 3/4 cups of sugar.
Just regular white sugar.
Mhm.
Okay.
And the amount of berries that we put in was about 6 cups.
Okay.
Okay, then we will go on to our seasonings. This is the fun stuff. Okay, so let me just reach over here in front of you. And we're going to put in let's see, here's our salt. And I think this is about 1/3 of a teaspoon. And then we're going to put in a grating or 2 of nutmeg.
Okay.
Yeah.
More?
Looks good. And we'll do a little squeeze of lemon in there.
Okay.
And I find if I squeeze with a sieve strainer, it's a very
all the
easy,
seeds.
yeah,
How much am I squeezing? on
that looks good. Okay, all right. And let's put in a liqueur today.
Sounds good.
I
Sounds
love
like a party.
So with this particular pie, you could put an orange liqueur in, you could put a raspberry liqueur and a blackberry liqueur. Today we've got this really yummy one, Finn River blueberry wine with apple brandy. Oh, yeah. So you would have your little taster thing, and then it would be a whoops.
Oh, I mean, oops.
I think a little more.
Oops.
Yes.
Real oops.
Okay, great. Let's put the top on that so we don't spill that, and we'll save all that good stuff. Now we're also going to put in our thickener, and today we're going to be putting in quick cooking tapioca, and we have we're putting in 2 tablespoons of quick cooking tapioca.
So I use tapioca starch. How does that differ from?
It's the same. You're going to have the same. It has
It's a
the
little
same
finer in
properties.
texture.
Yes, yeah. And then
This
2
is?
tablespoons of flour.
Okay.
You could do all tapioca in this pie also. And now we will mix. So we have a spoon.
I was gonna say I should rinse my hands.
That works too.
We
So
don't
I
wanna
always-
crush these.
And I always mix up from the bottom until it looks like it's very, very well coated.
Okay. So what's your favorite kind of pie to eat?
Peach.
Ooh,
There is
summery.
like a
Delicious.
fresh peach pie made with peaches that the juice is just dripping down your chin. You ever
Can't go
had
wrong
peaches
with
like
this.
that?
Of course. It's the best part about summer.
Isn't it?
Are there any pies that you don't care to eat? Aside from ones with gluten.
You told my little secret there. I can't eat any of the gluten-full pies that I make because I have celiac disease. But
It's more for the rest of us.
it didn't stop me from making pies. I learned how to make a really good gluten-free dough.
Great.
So now that we have that in, let's take a taste and see what we think.
All right. So many choices. I
If
can
it-
taste the liqueur.
If it makes you want to have a second bite, then you're there.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay,
Ready.
let's set this aside. We're going to go on to rolling, and then we are going to construct. You're going to show me how to make that dough.
Oh, you can do it.
Okay,
Easier than you think.
okay. Let's sort of clear off this
Here,
area.
rinse my hands.
Okay. I'll get us set up. I think I'll just move this way over here so we have the maximum amount of room. Great. Okay. So have you ever rolled out on a pastry cloth, Lauren?
I have never done that before.
Okay.
I usually just do it right on my countertop.
Okay, so we have some flour for dusting
What
on
kind
here.
of material is this?
This is white cotton canvas. I just make them and embroider on them. It's kind of a fun little thing to do in
Yeah.
the evenings. Okay.
And why do you prefer using this cloth?
I liked that the extra flour goes down into the weave.
Okay.
And when I'm rolling a dough, I really like to make sure that that I can get it off of the counter here.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's always key.
So we'll take a handful of this. We'll unwrap one of our doughs. So I made this one earlier. You can see how it's changed color a little bit.
I see the
Okay.
butter chunks in there still.
And you may want to get your rolling pin and I'll get mine. So what I do is first I wake up the dough. I was so excited when I saw on a Julia Child program that she did this too.
Okay,
It
I'm going
was
to
great.
start this. Seems
Okay.
like a good technique.
Yeah. And then I'm going to have my hands, at least one hand over the dough and pushing with that and then rolling as I go.
So from center out.
Yes, always from center, and I never go all the way to the edge.
Okay.
Okay. If I start to see cracking, I don't worry about it. So I'm going to roll out one dough and then you can roll out the other. How's
Sounds
that?
good.
It's okay if I see this over here. I'm just going to push down on that a little bit. It's another little dough technique.
Okay.
I've learned over the years too that, when they say you can't roll a dough twice, you really can. Yeah. So if you have a dough that is, I'll give you an experiment on here. This one I know I could work it out beautifully, but if it at all feels like, oh, it's not working for me, just gently put it back together like this into your disc again, turn it over, and start again.
Perfect.
And it always works out.
Do you ever start rolling out your dough and then put it back in the fridge if it's too warm? or-
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, so I want to get on with this because I want to really see how we make that dough,
Yeah.
how we
should be
do
fun.
that top. So
Notice you don't really sprinkle flour as you go. Is that to kind of minimize it?
if I
or-
needed to, if it was sticking on here, I would. Because stick will go with stick, and then I would just put, a little sprinkle on here, and off we go. Okay, where's our pie pan? Let's see if that's going to be big enough.
It's right here.
Okay, so we want it to be about 2 inches or so larger. That will work. Okay,
So that'll do.
then we'll brush off the extra flour.
Okay.
There we go. And here's how I get it off of here. I take the dough and I just flip it over easily like this.
Oh, I usually just roll mine up in the rolling pin.
Oh, we can do that on the second one.
Perfect.
Cool. And then, whoops. And if it needs to be adjusted in the pan, then I use the weight of the dough to ease it down in there.
Great.
And that's it. Okay. So while you're doing the second
turn.
one, here we go.
Right. I usually kind of flour up my rolling pin so it doesn't stick.
Isn't that kind of a fun term? I'm going to flour up my pin.
Floured up.
I love to have plenty of elbow room when I'm rolling.
Yeah, don't want to get in my way. All right, so it's sticking
I can,
a little bit.
I can see the leaf lard in there.
Yeah, so how did you start cooking dough with leaf lard?
Someone
that
came to my house.
Family recipe?
Somebody came to my house and they said, Kate, I would put some more flour on there, Lauren. And I maybe even would sprinkle it on here.
Get some of these pieces off.
Yeah, you can always brush off the extra. So they came to my house one day with a 1-pound container of leaf lard, and I had always heard about it, but I had never had any. And I tried it, and I just loved the results. The pie, I did a combination of leaf lard and butter. Over the years, I adapted to, you know, does it need how much butter, how much leaf lard, and I came down to half and half, and I have loved the results. Butter for the flavor, leaf lard for the nice flake.
Okay. So I'm trying to get as big a sheet as we can because we're going to cut strips for this particular design. And we want to get as many as we can. So just trying to stretch this out. It doesn't have to be a particular shape as long as we can get a fair amount of strips of relatively the same size. And I usually try to roll it a little longer than the pie plate so we have some extra room to work with. So
How's that rolling for you?
going. It's good. I like this cloth situation we've got going. I think we're almost there.
We do have a question from the audience again. So we are having a couple technical issues with the audio, but we all are working on that. In the meantime, what kind of rolling mat are you using?
What kind of rolling mat? This is just a homemade pastry cloth that I made. And it's, I went to the fabric store and they had unbleached cotton denim. So I bought some, made it to, you know, the size that I could comfortably know that I could roll a big piece of dough on. And I serged the edges, and I like them sort of rounded because I think they look nice. And then a friend of mine embroidered that for me on there.
All right. So I think this is the right size.
Okay. So I should put this in here.
Yeah, let's
okay.
fill the pie.
All right.
And for those just tuning in, what is leaf lard? Can you explain that a little bit?
Leaf lard is rendered fat from around the kidney area of a pig. And it is what has been one of the preferred fats of generations of pie makers well before me. And it makes a really, really lovely pie. It's white, it's tasteless, it makes a great flaky pie crust. And I'm going to dot a few of these too on here.
And why do you do that?
Well, somebody told me, like my grandmother, that you should always dot a pie with butter, but I would say that I forget 95% of the time,
Okay.
and it still turns out fine. Okay. Do you dot with butter?
I don't. Never done that before.
All right.
A little bit extra butter doesn't hurt.
Okay, Lauren.
So this is where the Loco Kitchen part starts. We are going to do a design today that looks a little bit like a snowflake or a dough flake because I'm cheesy like that. And the tools we need are very simple, just a ruler or any sort of straight edge. I just started doing all of this for fun and was using a cookie sheet at the beginning, which was unwieldy and ridiculous, but it worked. And then a little rolling pastry cutter. This one just happens to have two different edges. We're going to use the straight one.
Okay.
And we're just going to go through and cut some strips to lay out.
Well, a pizza cutter worked too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And before I got one of these nifty things to make my life easier, I just use a regular sharp knife. So
I wonder
the
if we
arsenal
should,
is very simple.
so if you were using a knife and a pastry cloth, you would probably want to move the dough off of the pastry cloth so it wouldn't shred the cloth.
True. Should we?
I think we can. Let's put some
so-
flour down,
Okay.
just so it won't stick. You think that's enough?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, there
and
we go.
then this is how I transfer my
All right.
doughs. I just kind of gently wrap it over, roll it, and gently lift it. I've got some flour on here, and then gently roll it back out.
Okay.
Well, that's a small casualty.
It's like life.
Yeah, roll with it.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, that was good.
all right, so I never measure. And sometimes maybe it looks like it, but
It does.
takes way too much time, and nobody has time for that. So just kind of lay out the roller
Okay.
and make a quick slice. And then usually the scraps I save for later. I bake them up as little pieces. For this design, we're going to try to cut them as thin as possible. And we'll do 2 different widths. So we'll do thin and thinner.
Okay.
We'll see how that goes. And this design was a total accident. I was just messing around with dough and put down a design, didn't really like it, so I cut the strips thinner and then put another layer on, and ta-da, here we are.
Okay.
So just roll, and then I just leave the strips there. So if you want to give it a try and do some strips.
I'll try some, and if I'm going too slow or too wide or too thin.
So I usually just eyeball. Too fast, too fast.
Too fast. Okay, that's good to know. So there is a speed.
Yeah, and maybe you want to keep it up a little bit so the dough
Okay.
doesn't catch on this safeguard.
Okay. Can I come back this way?
You can do whatever you'd like. Yep,
Oh, I like that
seems
way
to work
better.
really well.
Okay. I bet you can do this blindfolded.
So I usually use an all butter crust, and I think it melts a little bit slower. So I notice this is getting a little bit soft, but we should be good.
We'll hope for the best. I think you can do this faster than I, so I'm
I
gonna.
don't know about that. All right, we're just gonna cut a bunch of strips and have them at the ready, and then we'll lay them out on our pie. So,
You do that so swiftly and adroitly.
thank you.
Absolutely.
A couple months of practice at this
Yeah.
point.
You know, when people ask me, and probably you too, how did you do this? You know, it's just really just making a lot of pies, and there's no difference between me and any pie maker. We just may have made pies a few days longer than you.
Yep. So just keep going. I did have a question about your filling. Do your other ingredients change if the fruit is frozen versus fresh?
No, I use frozen fruit exactly as if it were fresh. So if we were making this pie with bags of frozen fruit, I would not defrost them. I would measure into my pie pan in exactly the same way, pour it into the bowl, put my sweetener, my seasoning, and my thickener in there, and continue on, mix it up, and then set it aside while I rolled out my dough.
Okay. So for this design, as I mentioned, we were going to cut thin and thinner, but I think this is melting a little bit, and it'll
Help,
be a
I'm
little
melting?
help.
This is not our usual
So
kitchen temperatures, too.
we're just going to roll with it, as usually I do when I'm in my kitchen, just kind of wing it and
Okay.
go with it. So we'll do this for now, and
Okay.
then we'll cut more if we need.
Okay.
So,
And we have more doughs chilling.
oh, perfect. There are no mathematical calculations involved. It's very precise and not precise at all.
It's perfectly imperfect.
So, exactly.
Okay.
We're just going to place dough across the pie just like this, and just kind of tap it down on the edges to make it stick, and just follow the pattern around like in a snowflake shape. And again, the key is to keep the dough as cold as possible, so I try to touch the strips only from the very ends. I just try to
Okay,
handle
yes.
it very minimally. I don't want to be
Yes.
touching them all over. Once I put them down, I try not to pick them up. I'm not touching them in the middle, that kind of thing. So,
So snowflakes
give
have
it
a
a-
symmetry to them. So when I would be doing this, you would set it up. I see that we have this.
yep, and that's
Evenly placed
parallel. And then
across.
we can also start doing some around the edges,
And then would
Just
that
to
go
give
here,
extra-
here, and
yep.
here?
like
Oh
a
my
square, and
gosh.
then you rotate the square and keep going. There you go.
Oh.
Super
This is
easy.
easier than I thought.
Yes.
Lauren, where have you been all my life?
Working regular office jobs and not making pie.
I think pie making is one of the best things in the world. I'm just going to
quite
grab
fun.
some from this
Yeah.
end.
So then we have this square, and then we'll just rotate the square. So then we'll put the straight edge
Oh,
this
I
way,
see.
and it just kind of matches up with
Oh.
the corners.
So that should match up right in there so that
I
the
mean,
intersection crosses in
Yeah,
all
if you want it
perfection.
to, but we're gonna put enough layers on there that you
Okay.
won't really notice by the end.
Do you dream up these tops?
Um,
Do they come to you?
I look at a lot of photos of textiles and geometric patterns and string art and just kind of
Let's see.
see what I can make or
Now, would
recreate
this
with those.
go?
So then I just start filling in spaces as I go. So as you can see, it's not really precise, but just fill in spaces. You can put that one there. Just filling it in until we have a full crust and then putting it in between the lines.
Oops.
Just set that one aside.
I
Yeah.
bet it will stick on here and be perfect on here
Yep, there you go.
anyway. There's no right or wrong, there's just pie, right?
Exactly. So just carefully lay it down.
So I could put this one here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that one's yours.
Okay. Is this the bomb or what?
It's simple. Anybody can do it. It looks cool, but it's actually very little work. Oh, just make sure it's flat. Yeah. And then just keep going. So maybe we'll start going this way. Maybe
Should I be
should
rolling
cut
it?
some
Oh,
more.
okay, you
Or
cut.
do you want to slice?
Oh, I'm not. Whatever is fine with me.
Okay, just clear out some space.
When do you preheat your
Roller.
oven?
Oh, well, so once I make the design, I usually stick the whole pie back in the fridge for at least an hour, if not
Okay.
more, to make sure the design is cold and solid. Otherwise, the crust tends to just melt off, and all the work you put into designing the pie is for naught. It just melts into one big blob, or, you know, just doesn't hold its shape. So once I'm getting ready to bake, then I preheat the oven, and it stays in the fridge until the oven is at temperature.
Now, if you were doing thick and thin strips on this,
Mm-hmm.
would you change it in any way? Would you like, okay, I have a square of thin ones. Now when I rotate, my next one will be a square of thick ones.
For the one that I posted to my feed, I actually started with this kind of bottom layer with the thicker strips. And then because I didn't like how it looked, I cut thinner strips and then just did the same kind of arrangement, but with the thinner strips on top.
And this is a thick strip.
Yes. But, I mean, you can cut them as thin or thick as you want. It's just preference. And of
Wow.
course, the thicker they are, the easier the strips are to work with. Trying to move quickly as our dough rapidly melts. And then basically, I just cut strips until I reach the end point. So, keep laying them out.
Let's see, where are we there?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Oops, sorry.
This is kind of like being in kindergarten.
It's very soothing and fun.
Very
and then
much
you have
so.
a
See, I'm
delicious
gonna
product
cut
to
it
show for
here.
it. So let's go back this way, maybe.
And we should maybe put one right there too. Or does it
Yeah.
matter?
If you feel like it, put one there.
Okay,
If
all
you don't,
right.
don't. Oh no. So, this is also why I try to make the strips a little longer, so if it breaks at the end, it's no
Yes.
sweat.
Yes. Do you know the trick about splicing your strips?
No.
You can take a little dab of water and glue them back together.
Oh, yeah.
I call water super glue. Now, if
It's the cure-all.
it is, if I'm doing thicker strips, say on a basic lattice pie, which of course mine now look like it's kindergarten
Oh,
or nursery
please.
school with those, but you would piece it together and then make sure with your lattice that that splice goes under
Underneath, and
one
it
of the
covers
ones
up.
that is
Perfect.
full. Okay.
Yeah, so
How does this look?
do we want some more, or do we think this
Oh,
is good?
I think this is just So you could just continue to do layer upon layer upon layer.
I mean, you don't want it too thick because then the baking becomes a little uneven. It gets a little doughy in the middle.
Right.
But I think this is pretty good. So then I just kind of like tap down on the edges to make sure it stays. You don't want to touch too hard because the dough sticks to your hands.
Okay.
And then just take a sharp knife and cut all the extra scraps off the
Okay.
edge. So I just follow the edge of the pie plate.
So you don't do any crimp on there, you just let the design drape over the edge, or go to the edge, and then you cut it.
And that's only because I have never been able to get a crimp to work. I should probably have had you show me how to do that.
You'll have to come to pie camp.
Oh, sounds like a plan. Every time I have tried, it just looks terrible, and then when I bake, it just melts off the pan and
Well,
disappears and dies and
We'll talk
turns
after.
into a fire, oven fire. So, all this to say, I just cut the edges off because no
See what
crimps
we
happening.
A little bit
So here, do you do anything with your pie scraps?
I do. I re-roll them, and then I fill them with cinnamon sugar and roll them up, and I call them little tasties.
Sounds good. I usually have lots of extra strips, so I just bake them as strips and call them pie fries.
Okay. Oh yes, I've seen
And you
those
can
too.
sprinkle
Those are
them
very
with
good. Cinnamon sugar.
or you can eat them with savory stuff, dip them in cheese. Do what you gotta do.
Not a bad idea.
And then, so under normal circumstances, I
We
would
would
put this in the
chill the
fridge
pie.
until it's hard and the crust is set.
Let's get this
should we
into
do that?
chill.
Okay.
For those who are just tuning in, what kind of pie are you making?
We are making a mixed berry pie with
With the good
blueberries,
stuff.
raspberries, and blackberries. And we put in sugar, some lemon, a little salt, some couple gratings of nutmeg, and then we liberally doused it with some of the Finn River blueberry cordial.
Casually poured that in there.
It was a healthy whoops.
Whoops. Yes. So the pie is chilling, as I said, probably an hour or so, and then preheat the oven. Once that's ready, I do a quick egg wash over the top, which is my least favorite part, mostly because I'm just really lazy. But just carefully kind of glaze it with what I use a whole egg mixed with a little bit of water. And depending on the crust design, I'll sprinkle it with a little raw sugar and then pop it in the oven until the filling is boiling in the middle or bubbling in the middle.
Do you ever freeze pies?
I haven't tried it. I'm a little scared. Usually I make my pies in Pyrex pans,
Yes.
so I've heard a lot about them exploding in the oven. Makes me a little nervous, so I haven't tried freezing them
You
yet.
know what I did one time just for the heck of it? I wanted to see if that actually was true. So I took a pie straight out of the freezer, and I turned my oven way up past the manufacturer's recommendations just to see what would happen to 550. And you know what happened? It did explode.
Oh, gosh.
So
I'm nervous.
but I do generally, if I have a frozen pie, I'll take it out and put it on the counter while I'm preheating the oven. Maybe 15, 20 minutes, so it tempers a little bit.
Okay.
And then I bake
That
it,
makes
and I've
sense.
never had a problem since. But I would never, ever do a frozen pie if it's a very, very special pie pan, like a vintage one or something like that, So are we ready to see
I think it's ready to come out of the oven.
with the
Look
magic?
at what kind of magic happens when we're together.
Are we ready?
Da-da-da-da,
Here it
pie.
That's
So,
a beautiful pie.
yeah. And usually I'll check it halfway through the baking process. If the edges are getting a little brown, I put my little trusty pie cover on. It's silicone, but you can also use foil, whatever works. I
use
don't know
foil,
if you do
yeah.
the same.
What temperature do you bake at?
I usually do maybe like 15 minutes at a higher heat, like 400, 420. I noticed your recipe was similar, and then the rest of the time at like 350, 375. But mainly the test is when the filling is bubbling in the middle. That's when I know.
Right. And with tapioca, the sign for me to know that it is done is if I see steady bubbling. When I use tapioca, it has to reach a high enough temperature to have steady bubbling that is this, not just, oh, here's a bubble and there's a bubble, but just happy bubbling. Otherwise,
It's like popcorn.
yes, I think that's a very good analogy. Okay, so that's perfect. That is
Shall
great.
we cut into this and have a slice?
I'll cut, you can eat. And I think we have a pie server right in the kitchen here. And we could maybe find
convenient.
a plate too and see what we have. Okay, are we ready?
In this kitchen and see if there are some plates.
And a fork too.
Thank you.
Are you ready for a bite?
I'm ready.
I have to watch because I can't eat that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's
I'm
right.
sorry. Well, maybe you'll need some.
I
maybe
might.
I'll
Oh.
watch this way. Well, now she's just gonna watch me eat. Sad.
How is that?
It's
Is it
still
feeling good?
warm from the oven.
This is great. This is great.
Well, I've had a lovely time. I've learned a lot. I've now officially made my first pie crust. That wasn't all butter.
Thank you.
And I'm just basking in her presence.
Well,
It's been
it's
delightful.
been a thrill for me to make a pie with you, Lauren. And you know, the Pie Way is just fabulous. And be happy, make pie.
Pie. Yeah, exactly. Thank you all for joining us. And hope you've had fun alongside with us. Thank you. I'm sorry I suggested eating a slice
That's
together.
okay.
I totally forgot. I
That's
wasn't sure if we were
okay.
gonna